Hello, my name is Stephen Miller. I'm a member of the faculty at the University of California at Berkeley, and I'm an archaeologist who's had the good fortune to be the director of excavations at the site of ancient Nemea in Greece. I'd like to invite you to come with me, come back to the classroom, be a student, and learn with all of us what ancient Greece has to tell us. Today, I want to share with you the very special events of 1996. In late March of that year, the Society for the Revival of the Nemean Games visited Olympia on the occasion of the lighting of the torch that would take the Olympic flame to Atlanta. First, a visit to Olympia to see the lighting of the flame and the torch leaving for Atlanta, but secondly, a detour the torch made on its way to Atlanta when it stopped at Nemea to light our own flame, and then the preparations of the ancient stadium at Nemea for the first modern Nemead, the Nemean Games of June the 1st, 1996. I want to show you now the next stage. This is March the 30th, 1996, and these are some of the members of the Society for the Revival of the Nemean Games. There are, to be sure, now something like 1,700 members from all around the world, but the core membership is always going to be at Nemea itself, of course. Here on this day is the celebration of the lighting of the Olympic flame at Olympia. Recognize what we're looking at here? This is the starting line in the stadium at Olympia. See the grooves, the parallel grooves, just like the ones at Nemea? And standing back behind in the crowd of distinguished guest is the United States Ambassador to Greece, Thomas Niles, and a lady whom you might recognize with a daughter who goes to school down the street a little ways. That's Chelsea and Hillary Clinton, who were the official representatives, Mrs. Clinton, the official representative of our state at the ceremonies. It was a wonderful day. We enjoyed the ceremonies tremendously. We actually got some of our shirts down to Mrs. Clinton, and she waved back at the Nemean contingency. I don't know if she can become the senator of New York, but she can certainly win the position of mayor of Nemea if she ever cares to try. The torch was brought in, the flame was lighted back outside the stadium at the Temple of Hera, and in the ceremony has now become traditional at Olympia. The flame is brought down where a dove is released, symbolizing the release of peace throughout the world. This is the basis, or this is based upon the ancient tradition of the peace. Remember I told you how for the ancient games you were protected by a truce when you went to Olympia or Delphi or Isthmia or Nemea. This is the tradition now that still exists and is symbolized by this dove. The dove flies away, taking peace with it. I don't know how they managed to get it to fly in front of the American flag, but they did, which was of course appropriate since the torch was going to go on its way to Atlanta for the 96 games. And then the torch itself was lighted and a branch of olive symbolizing the olive of victory at Olympia and the peace and the flame went out of the stadium at Olympia. You see again the starting line down the track of the stadium as the torch leaves. But it didn't go directly to Atlanta from Olympia. It made a stop. Made a stop at a place called ancient Nemea. And here you see it being run in by a local high school, well, he had graduated from high school by this time, but a local athlete who was a member of the Greek national track and field team who competed at Atlanta in a long distance race. The sign over the top says, Ancient Nemea welcomes the Olympic flame, the community, and the local athletic group called Opheltes. There still is an Opheltes. 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years after the baby died and the games were founded, the local people have Opheltes still alive. Then the flame came in through the tunnel. There were several hundred people gathered around for it. It was run down to our little altar. Our version of the dove was actually a pigeon, but the thought was what counts. Was released. The Corinth choir serenaded us, and the flame was lighted on our altar of the Nemean Games in the ancient stadium. This, of course, is a modern altar that we've erected symbolizing the games, but here the flame came to rest before the actual torch went on its journey to Atlanta. Then we come to the end of May and we have to get the stadium ready. You see workmen out in the track of the stadium preparing it for the games. One of the last things we had to do was to put down chalk lines for the lanes for the races, because we were going to have 100-meter long races. Everyone was just going to race 100 meters in groups separated by age and by gender. So you have all of the old men and all of the young girls and everybody in between racing in groups put together that way. We had to put up the flags of the 29 countries who were represented by the 671 people, as it turned out, who would actually run down the track on the next day. There were other things that we had to do to prepare. Here is our guards house that we had built at the entrance to the stadium. This is a pile of rugs that you may recognize. I don't know if your mother's ever made rugs out of rags, but this is typical in Greece. My mother certainly made rag rugs. The problem was this: we're going to have a lot of visitors coming from all around the world. They're going to go into the stadium and sit down on the earth slopes the way the ancients did. What are they going to sit on? Well, in antiquity, you brought your own rug, your own blanket with you, but that's not going to happen today. So what are we going to do? We appealed to the local people, and over 700 rugs were donated from the local people. And here they are, so that when the German family comes in, or the Canadian family, or the Australian family comes in, we say, would you like a rug to sit on? Yes, thank you. They take the rug with the stipulation. Of course, they bring it back at the end of the day and keep it in the group. We also put up a few chairs. And these are 4 young men with whom you should sympathize. I don't know if you make out what's on his shirt here.
Berkeley.
Yes, these are undergraduate students from the University of California at Berkeley, members of the Cal Marching Band, who were actually there to help us in a different context. I'll show you that in a moment, but who in the day before the games got stuck toting chairs around, which was a tiring job, as you can see. But the spirit of volunteer and of help was really great. This is a fellow named Miller, Walter Miller. He's no relation of mine, well, at least not any close relation that I know of. His real name is Milonakos. He is Greek, or at least his grandfather was Greek. His grandfather came to this country, and young Walter Miller, Milonakos, in talking with his grandfather on his grandfather's deathbed, was told by his grandfather, I want you to do something for the fatherland. I want you to go back to Greece and do something beneficial for Greece. Walter heard about our efforts at Nemea and about the fact that we needed portable toilets at Nemea for the Nemean Games. We don't know what they did in antiquity about this problem, perhaps bushes, but we just didn't have enough bushes around. We wanted some portable toilets, but at this point in time, in 1996, portable toilets were not known in Greece. You couldn't find them. They were known, but very hard to get your hands on them. So Walter brought in a dozen portable toilets and loaned them to us for the day, and left 2 of them as a permanent gift to the Nemea project. So this is the first portable toilet in Nemea for sure, and one of the first ones in Greece ever. And the local people and people from elsewhere, here's the University of California Alumni Association, had its own little tent there at the first Nemean Games. We had to get the locker room ready. We want the locker room to be used as the place where you go to change your clothes. But we need to protect the ancient columns. So we build scaffolding around the columns in preparation for putting a tent up around us. And here's the tent itself. The material was donated by an importer in Nauplia, Greece, and it was sewn together by the tailor of the 6th Greek army in Corinth, who normally makes tents and uniforms for the soldiers, but took this on as a special project, as a contribution to our efforts. We were worried about other things. Here's our tunnel. You've seen the graffiti, the ancient graffiti in the tunnel. We don't want any modern graffiti in the tunnel, but we do want people to walk through here from the locker room out onto the track. So what do? We get a full-scale blow-up of the tunnel wall and set it up outside where people can come and sign their names. And there are modern graffiti being added to the modern photograph of the ancient wall, and now we have those photographs in our archives, and they become a sort of guest book of the first Nemean Games. All of the athletes, young and old, who ran, wrote their names there, and someday they'll come back and find them. In the locker room itself, we had little jars that were modern replicas of the ancient jars that were filled with oil. So these are all filled with olive oil. So if you want to put olive oil on your body on the 1st of June in 1996, you may do so. And some of our athletes really did. Now, as you know, to be authentic, they should have been nude. And we said that anybody who wanted to could be nude,
really?
If you wanted to. No one had the nerve to do that. So we gave them ancient tunics to run in, so there still was an ancient flavor, and we gave them oil. And many of them actually used oil, and some of them, especially in the long-distance race that I'll show you in a moment, some of them came up to me afterwards and said, you know what, I put the oil in my body, I didn't lose as much fluid as I usually do. I feel that my stamina is much, much better because of the oil on my body. It's sort of sealed in. Now, I had always thought the oil might be a sort of primitive suntan lotion, and I don't necessarily believe that that's wrong, but it was an interesting result that we had without even anticipating that maybe the oil was used for that purpose in antiquity to increase stamina. We had to dress not only our athletes, but also our judges and our heralds who wore blue, and our slaves who wore orange, black. This is a local blacksmith. This is a former vice chancellor of the University of California here at Berkeley, and this is the guy who pinned them all together. I spent almost all of that day in the locker room because none of these gentlemen knew how to put on an ancient robe, and I had to pin them together. I felt like a new mother with all these safety pins that I put in that day. But everybody chipped in. You know, there's a danger that people might laugh at you, that might you know, this is silliness, but everybody got into the spirit of it. This is a local store owner. He's a furniture salesman in the next town. But here he came to be a judge, to wear his black robe in memory of his ancestor Opheltes, and to carry his switch and to lash anybody who misbehaved. Here's a local farmer who was one of the slaves all day long, tended the fire, made sure that the flames stayed lighted on the altar. And here we are at 7 o'clock in the morning, ready to walk through the tunnel with the first batch of the starter, our friend Theodosius, who've seen him before, and our judges. Here's the mayor of ancient Nemea, here's the mayor of another village, and the mayor of another village, and the mayor of another village, who have volunteered to serve as judges. Of course, they knew that the governor was going to run. And they knew if the governor stepped out of line, they'd get the whipping. So there may have been some little stimulus there coming along. Here's a member of the local town council. Here's a student of mine from the University of California, Berkeley. He speaks English, he speaks Greek. They're going to be the heralds. And here's a member of the Cal band with his trumpet. He's going to be the trumpeter, because that was a part of what happened in antiquity. Here comes Ambassador Niles, the United States Ambassador Niles, in his bare feet. Everybody had to be barefooted. You didn't have to be bare, but you had to be barefooted so that you would feel the ancient earth and the ancient stones under your feet, that you would be in direct physical contact with the ancient idea as well as the ancient dirt. I want to thank you for your attention over the last several weeks as we've looked at the history of the Nemean Games and the modern attempt to revive them. But I would like to suggest to you that you get involved. If you would like to be a participant in the Nemean Games on June the 3rd and 4th of the year 2000, you can send your name, your gender, your age, together with your address, to the Society for the Revival of the Nemean Games, Post Office Box 2000, Nemea 20500, Greece, and to receive our mailings and be kept up to date on the progress of reinventing this idea. Send again your name with your address and a check or money order, no cash please, for $10 or its equivalent, again to the Society for the Revival of the Nemean Games. If you'd like to help with some of the expenses that we have, because our volunteers can't do everything by themselves, add an extra $1 or $2 or as much as you can to your membership check